As Naruto fans, we've been fortunate enough to see some of the most diverse ninjutsu and genjutsu in the series, with some techniques being able to shatter entire mountain ranges, while others are able to control space and time with their genjutsu powers. But with the 8 inner gates, they are a source of one of the greatest power-ups in the Naruto universe. But as you would expect, with a power such as this, there is a catch to it, which is death when all 8 gates are open. And for that reason, there are only less than a handful of shinobi who have ever been able to unlock all 8 inner gates, which is why in today's newest dual installment of the Ninjutsu Handbook and the Kenjutsu Handbook, we're going to be explaining how the 8 inner gates work, why it isn't something that just any random person can learn, the pros and cons to the jutsu, as well as the lesser known information that does not get discussed here on YouTube enough, which is the enormous links to Buddhism and Asian culture that the technique has that will forever change the way you view the way that the 8 inner gates are used. For those of you guys who are new, the Ninjutsu Handbook is a series here on the channel where we break down various ninjutsu in a way where we just described, and the Kenjutsu Handbook is where we take a look at the various forbidden jutsu in the exact same way, but we take it a step further by explaining how and why the jutsu are forbidden, which in the case of the 8 inner gates, it comes down to each of the inner gates as you unlock them, they affect the body in some physical capacity, and with the 8 inner gates being unlocked, it is something that kills the user. So what exactly makes 8 inner gates special? Well, it's the fact that they directly line up with the power system of the Naruto world, which is chakra itself. But the science behind the inner gates is also something backed by information in the real world as well. So with the inner gates, they are specifically in the body to limit the flow of chakra that runs through the chakra pathway system and all the tenketsu in the body. The reason why this is done is to protect the body by limiting it to only 20% of its full power that's unleashed. This is done so as to protect all the shinobi who use chakra from hurting themselves, because as a reminder, use chakra not just for ninjutsu but to amp all your physical stats from strength to power to speed and etc. Because the body, it is not meant to be using 100% full output, and then when you start adding in chakra to boost your stats, you can really damage yourself. So in our own world, science, it has also come to a conclusion very similar to that of the characters in the Naruto world, which is that humans, they can only realistically use between 30 and 40% of their muscle strength. Well-trained elite athletes are able to use up to 80% of their power, but like Naruto shinobi, they aren't able to use 100% of their strength. However, we have seen exceptions to the rule. These super rare cases that you talk about where there's this mother who's able to lift a car off of her child to save it, where she taps into 100% of her strength to do so. Those are rare exceptions, and oftentimes those people are in the hospital after the fact. And just like in the Naruto world, there are rare exceptions to the shinobi who can access 100% of their power, which is done by the few who are able to unlock the inner gates themselves. However, that is something that is easier said than done. In order to unlock the inner gates, the training that a person must undergo, it is super intense, it is brutal, and even something as simple as sheer training, it isn't enough to unlock the inner gates. There's a reason why a generational prodigy like Kakashi can only unlock the first of the inner gates. That's as far as he can go, which he briefly did when he was training after Naruto's Chunin exams while waiting for Sasuke to meet him up there at the mountains. Even another generational genius in Neji, he failed to master this technique's training, whereas Rock Lee was able to do so, pushing through his limits when Gai was trying to pass down this technique to the members of Team Gai. It took Might Gai's father, Might Gai, 20 years to fully master the inner gates. It took his son, Gai, roughly the same amount of time to master all 8 inner gates. Even Rock Lee, someone who was exceptionally talented in this area and had mastered up to the 5 first inner gates at the age of 14 years old when he fought Gaara, which, as a reminder, Neji, Tenten, and Lee, they're all older than Naruto and the Rookie 9. But even for as fast of a start as he had, during the 2.5-year time skip, Lee does not progress any further, and in the manga, it isn't until a year later during the 4th Ninja War that Rock Lee is able to open up the 6th inner gate. By the time Naruto and Hinata are married 2.5 years after the war, Rock Lee is still in the process of mastering the 7th gate, and by the events of Boruto Naruto Next Generations episode 70, which is set 15 years after the Ninja War, Rock Lee, he has mastered opening the 8th gate. Now, in terms of, well, how does one master the 8th gate that kills you? Do you just open it up and shut it off really quick. So it's not really expounded upon. So don't overthink it. The only real thing that you can truly say is that once a person has pushed the 7th gate to its limits and they got their own super strong mental conviction, they'll be able to use 8th gate. Since chakra is made up of both physical energy as well as yang chakra and spiritual energy, which is known as yin chakra, which is linked directly to your emotions and to your heart. While you do get the increased power several fold, it does come with some huge drawbacks. Like on this shorter end, you get exhaustion, and that leaves the user unable to defend themselves in combat after using it for too long, and in some cases outright tearing the muscles and the bones and etc. of the user as a direct result of opening up some of those inner gates, which is why the 8th gate typically kills the user, because the human body, it is not meant to survive that much chakra flowing through the body and that much stress in terms of the power output, which is why everyone from Might Gai to Might Gai to Rock Lee, they all have one condition, which is that they must only resort to opening the inner gates under the condition that they are trying to protect someone precious to them. So someone like a lover, someone like a family member, or someone like a comrade. Though as we see with Rock Lee, he kind of breaks the rules a little bit, because Rock Lee, when his pride as a ninja has been damaged, he will open up the inner gates. Rock Lee wants the smoke, as we saw in Naruto chapter 83. The first gate is known as the gate of opening. It is located in the brain, and it releases the mental blocks that a shinobi has, which allows them to tap into more of the power that the body has kept sealed away in order to protect itself. This, by extension, allows the user to use the front lotus technique. The second gate is the gate of healing, which is also located in the brain, which uses the extra chakra unleashed to heal the damage done to the body from opening the first inner gate, and the damage being done prior, that is exhaustion. The third gate, that is the gate of life, which it turns the skin red and is located in the spinal cord. When this is unlocked, the eyes, they vanish, and the hair, it pops up, and the chakra running through the body, it is so intense we see veins popping up all over their body. The veins, kind of creepy to look at, but it kind of makes sense given the stress that you're undergoing. This gate also allows the user to utilize the reverse lotus. Now, the fourth gate is the gate of pain, and is also located in the spinal cord, which is open when the user is gearing up to use the reverse lotus, but this gate in particular uses the extra chakra being built up in order to amp up the speed, whereas the prior gates use the chakra for strength and stamina. It's at this point that the muscles inside the body, they're beginning the process of tearing themselves apart, which, as we see with Rock Lee, it is super painful. Now, the fifth gate is located in the abdomen, and it is the gate of the limit. So this is done as like a cherry on top for the reverse lotus, and this one further breaks the bones of the body, and it summons forth another additional boost in chakra to amp up strength even further. Now, the sixth gate, it allows the user to use the attack known as the morning peacock, which punches the air so hard that the shock waves, they can produce flames. This gate, when unlocked, allows the user to use this green aura, and it also gives an overall stat increase across the board. So unlike the others, which it specifically is used for either amping up speed or strength or stamina, this inner gate, it amps everything equally. Now, the seventh gate, as Might Gai is shown using it, and as Mata refers to it as being the blue steam, it gives off this blue aura. This is done by the sweat evaporating off of the user's body and producing a blue aura, which it does look like it's chakra, but it's just evaporated sweat. This allows the user to use the daytime tiger, which is an attack of highly compressed air, but as a result, the attack, it completely ruptures multiple muscles inside the body. The eighth gate is the one located in the heart, which requires the user pressing the Tenketsu node above the heart in order to unlock it, and it raises their power level 100 times over their base, which that makes Madara refer to it as being the red steam. This is a result of so much high power that the mode, it has to have something that is an effective payoff in correlation to the user's base strength. So it's very similar to, say, Super Saiyan 2 and Dragon Ball, which that also has 100 times multiplier over the base. So not every person has the same power level for obvious reasons. This is how Might Gai's father gets 100 times increase and is only able to kill multiple members of the 7 Ninja Swords of the Mist. If that same Might Gai ends up fighting against, say, Jubi Madara, Madara can have both hands tied behind his back and don't even use his feet and still kill the guy. Whereas Might Gai, who is a much stronger person in terms of base to base, is able to battle against someone as strong as one Rinnegan Jubi Madara. But as a result of this large power increase, the body, it can only maintain this high level of power for a very, very short period of time, with it being noticeably shorter in the manga than in the anime, which had Gai stay in the swarm a little longer than he did in the manga. Now, when you use this power, it is with the expectation that you can quickly kill your enemy. Otherwise, you're going to be throwing your life away and then your body will be burned to ashes until Ninja Naruto Jesus swoops in and saves you using Hagoromo's 6-pass Yang Seal Chakra. Now, after the war, Rock Lee, he does find a small number of Konoha shinobi who also have the potential to use inner gates, and he does train them up to do so, which you see this in Naruto the Last when Rock Lee destroys the meteor, and that group they are known as a Suicide Corps. Taking a step further, the inner gates are inspired by a few different Asian concepts. Like a lot of things in the Naruto world, the idea of the 8 inner gates, it resembles the concept of chakra and energy flow within the body that can be found in India and Chinese traditions. In traditional Chinese, you have Qigong and martial arts, and it is believed that the body, it has pathways that are known as meridians that go through the body with all these energies or chi flow. The pathways, they have certain nodes or gates that regulate the flow of energy, somewhat similar to the gates that are in the Naruto series that restrict and allow the flow of chakra. The 8 gates, they are also a metaphorical reference to the Buddhist 8 trifold path, a set of principles that guide a person towards enlightenment, which if you're a Boruto fan, you know, hey, the Kokugan, that's based off 8 trifold path. Yes, there's overlap there. Now, in Naruto, opening each of these inner gates, it allows one to move toward a greater power and understanding the limits of the body, echoing the idea of pursuing higher spiritual states in Buddhism. Now, each gate brings a different effect, much like the elements of the 8 trifold path represent a different aspect of one's personal journey to enlightenment. Also, there is a Buddhism and a Japanese spiritual reference in them. Buddhism and Japanese spiritually often emphasize the concept of selflessness and sacrifice. In Naruto, the opening of the Gate of Death, it allows the user to perform feats of strength at the cost of their own life, representing the ultimate sacrifice for a greater cause. This reflects the idea of the Buddhism sacrificing the worldly desires, or in this case, one's own life, one's own desire to live in order to achieve a higher purpose to protect others, which that makes the whole speech that Might Gai gives Rock Lee, use it to protect someone you care for, it hits a lot harder now. Now, the progression through the 8 gates, they also have some parallels with Zen and Taoism ideals about the balance between restraint and freedom. Each gate that is unlocked, it progressively releases more restrictions, which can be seen as an analogy for overcoming internal barriers, reaching heightened states of personal belonging and being, and ultimately embracing a form of enlightenment or union with a greater power, albeit through physical prowess rather than a spiritual awakening, which makes sense. This is a battle shonen, and most importantly, Rock Lee and Might Gai, they use chakra only for their taijutsu, which is physical. Chakra is mostly made up of spiritual energy and physical energy, yin chakra and yang chakra. These guys, they take the approach of yang chakra, so it makes sense. There's no spiritual awakening, but you do have a physical awakening in terms of the power up. Now, each of the 8 inner gates, they have a distinct name, such as the Gate of Healing, the Gate of Limit, and the Gate of Death. It symbolizes different spiritual and physical thresholds. This is reminiscent of how in both Japanese mythology as well as Buddhism, certain barriers or trials, they symbolize the personal growth and the struggle to transcend human limitations. Now, the use of the 8 inner gates in Naruto, it is thus a combination of martial arts tradition, which is why Rock Lee is a pun off of Bruce Lee, as well as Eastern philosophy and mythical symbolism, depicting a process of gradually unlocking one's full power by overcoming the body's natural limits, often at the cost of great personal sacrifice with each of the inner gates. That's why there's a cost for using each of them. That's going to be it for the 8 inner gates explained. Click here to see more videos from the Ninjutsu Handbook on Naruto Explained, or click here to watch another video from my Anime Explained channel.